Right. So then over to you.
First of all, I would like to thank you, Subhendu Bhattacharya and Dr. Sahil Ansari, for organizing this important meeting. And this is the first time I think that we are meeting with the entire Delhi CRI team to team. So before moving forward, I would like if a little bit introductions of the entire team, if done, then it will be better that who we are sitting with. And it will be better to know that who is in what role, and accordingly we can think of moving this sessions and everything. So if Suvendu sir, if you kindly allow, so a little bit small introduction by everyone, it will be better for all of us.
Yeah, I think they have introduced those who are involved here. Very important, you know.
Okay. Okay. So, hi, good morning, Dr. Raka. So we've met in Delhi office, but yeah, this is a pleasure to hear you again. And I would just like to give a short brief of people who are here because there are many people. So if you go into introductions one by one, it will take time. So there are 4 regions in CRI. North sits in Delhi, and West sits in Mumbai, East in Kolkata, and the South in Bangalore. So right now we have people from all the 4 regions, development support or the programs team. So the people who go on the ground, work with children, they are here sitting today to hear about this orientation. So we have people ranging from maybe who are looking after the programs directly, the direct interventions of CRI, to people who are looking after projects where the NGOs are managing on ground and we are the monitoring people. So there are 2 types of people who are here, who are directly working with children on ground and who are also monitoring the other organizations who are working on ground. So there might be around more than 40 people, I feel, because some people have joined together. Like I can see that the DS Delhi team is joined together, and I think the Bangalore team has also joined together. So
West has also joined together.
So there would be, I suppose, because we are 4 program heads who are looking after the regions. So I'm looking after Delhi, and my counterparts, Nilendu is looking after West, Maua East, and Peter Sunil South.
Perfect.
So yes, so then there's the entire team which we have state leads, we have managers, we have assistant managers who work with us. So this is the brief. Yeah, thank you.
So thank you very much, madam. And let's start move over. So first of all, I would say that heat wave. When we are talking about heat wave, actually, this is a disbalance between the working pattern and the pressures put on the masses, actually the population. In recent years, the deaths related to heat waves has increased phenomenally all over the world, not only in India. I was just going through a recent study which was saying that almost 1.53 lakh deaths per year has been associated with heat waves and all around the world. And with over a fifth of these deaths, the greatest share coming from our country. And you know that is a research by one of the universities by Australia that have found that heat wave linked excess deaths accounted for about a third of all heat related deaths and 1% of total deaths globally. So this is something very, very urgent where we have to think if 1% of deaths even is related to heat waves all over the world. That is a major thing we have to focus on. And in India, rightly you told that there are heat maps and the entire country is divided into different zones. Currently, as we are seeing not only North India, but the entire South India, including Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and even Kerala is suffering from heat wave. And major part of North and Central India is also there. Overall, around 23 states as of now is very prone to high temperature leading to heat wave conditions. And these states are actually also the parts of the heat action plan as put up by the state disaster management authorities. Uh, National Crime Records Bureau, when we are talking about, that is the only agency which are recording deaths related to different type of incidents and other things. They are telling that in between the year 2012 and 21, almost 11,000 people died all over the India because of the heat wave conditions. And out of these mortality, out of these numbers, the most of the numbers were from either from Bihar or the Uttar Pradesh respectively. That was 1,000 and 1,500 or something like that. You know, you also, madam, you rightly told that this is a silent disaster. It's not making any sound. But the problem is that it's a regular and recurring phenomena. Every year we are facing it. And I'll give you a little bit background where the heat wave is and how it's very, very focused. Actually, when the National Disaster Management Authority came up with the Disaster Management Act 2005, all the major disasters like floods, cyclones, earthquake, landslide, what was a visible ones actually, they were included into the DM Act as the disasters. But two disasters were, at the time, the policymakers could not think it would not a right way to say, but somewhere it was missed in the fact that how many deaths are taking place. Uh, is there is there a need of making a plan which can be implemented at the ground level, at the district level or village level? And these two disasters were, one was the heat wave and the other was thunderstorm, जिसको वज्रपात कहते हैं, ठनका कहते हैं. Actually, that were missed during the 2005 DM Act. And after that, over the years, gradually, when the people started dying because of these two disasters, and also economy started taking a lot of backset because of this. See, disasters, deaths are one thing, and related economical hardship to the population, the people on the ground, and its overall impact on the economic infrastructure or the health infrastructure of the country, it's totally related. So over the years, when in the monsoon season, thunderstorm is there, and before that, always there are heat wave conditions. Almost more than half of the country is suffering from that. So many of the state governments started thinking this should also be included into the disasters. So most of the state governments right now, as far as I know, they have included both these disasters, thunderstorms and heat waves, into the disaster category. And again, like I told, that silent disaster is okay, all right, but recurring conditions every year it's coming. Every year we have to see that heat waves claimed so many lives, so many people hospitalized, so many kids killed. So why not to develop the plans? And if we remember our childhood, heat waves were there also at the time. The pattern of change in the working condition, like if I remember exactly, when there were summers, our schools were in the morning, like 6 to 10. So 6 to 10 going to school, and after that coming back, and after coming back you are inside the home. Okay. So when you are inside the home, definitely you are not going to expose to the sunlight and the sunstroke, and the kids are relatively safe. But today schools are, summer closure is there, but for a particular period of time. And beyond that, the schools are regular, like 8 o'clock to evening 4 or 3 o'clock. And that is the major time of the heat wave where the children can be affected. And more so, the working pattern, we are talking about heat wave, then one part is vulnerability and the other part is exposure. And here we have to map the risk. Like I used to say, being the exposure being the same, vulnerability cannot be the same always. Like I used to give example that child marriage below the age of 18 years, right? But below the age of 18 years, suppose that there are three girls. One girl is 17-year-old, the other girl is 14-year-old, the third girl is 10-year-old. Okay. So all three girls are married. So exposure here is child marriage. But is the vulnerability same of all the three girls? It's a simple understanding, no. The most vulnerable will be 10 years old girl, and the less vulnerable will be 17 years old girl. So exposure being the same, that is child marriage, the vulnerability here is shifting. Okay. And this shifting of vulnerability is dependent on a lot of other factors. Sometimes it may be age factors, sometimes it may be cultural factors, sometimes it may be economic factor. Okay. So that we have to understand. And that is true when we are talking about heat wave also. Right? Exposure is here heat wave or the sunstroke. But the vulnerability is different. Age is also a factor here. Economy is also a factor here. A lot of other factors will can also be associated. Like again, another example I can give in front of you. Suppose that it's 2 o'clock and southern India, Vijayawada, the city, where normally the temperature is around 45 degree, 46 degree recorded, and with humidity it feels like 52 degree or 53 degree. So in the summertime at the peak 2 o'clock time when the sunstroke is very strong, and three different type of people have to travel 1 kilometer. Okay. One is senior citizen, 75 year plus. One is a boy, say 13 years or 14 years. And the another one is the young man, like 25, 30, suppose that. So three different category here. Okay. Being exposure being the same, the sunlight, the sun heat, sunstroke, 52, 53 degree feel like temperature, and real temperature is 46, 47. So is the vulnerability same? Again, you will say no. Why? Again, here the age factor is very clear. The senior citizen will face the highest burden here. The second one will be the 13, 14-year-old kid. And the less vulnerable will be the young man. Again, if we include something related to economic capabilities, like, okay, the most vulnerable, suppose that 75 plus is traveling in a car, right? The next one, the young man is traveling on a bicycle, the adult person, cycle. And the third one, the child is traveling in an auto. So again, the vulnerability will be different. You see, here is the risk perception. And actually, why I'm pointing it out, that when we are talking about heat wave, there are certain do's and do nots which we have to follow. But along with that, we have to see the population with whom we are going to work, what are their capabilities, and region specific, community specific capacity building initiatives on the ground has to be taken. There is no universal solution for any disaster, I used to say always. The impact of heat wave is always the highest on the poor and the marginal communities, and therefore bottom up measures are needed to be included in the solutions. Tackling the broader problem of climate change induced rise in temperature requires a comprehensive set of top-down guidelines and policies. So guidelines and policies, when we are talking about, India is always at its best. And there are heat wave do's and do nots, comprehensive guidelines, comprehensive plans. On the papers, everything is perfect. You go to the NDMA website, all the state level website, all the states which are facing major heat waves, you will find heat wave plans. And also you will find city specific heat wave plans, right? But how to implement it on the ground, directions are one thing, and linking that with the requirements of actually the marginalized communities, and what are the resources available on the ground. That is the major challenge where the practitioners like us has a major role to play. And that is why this discussion is very, very important. First, we will, I think there are two sessions going to be discussed here. The first one is we have to understand the heat wave, the conditions, how, why it's going up, and what are the India's capability as of now, where we are standing up against heat waves. And the other part will be do's and do nots, vulnerability specific, and how these deaths of the kids or the people can be reduced at the drastic level. And always one more important thing, the knowledge is there, the information is there, but how that knowledge and information has to be translated to the ground level, that is the most important thing. And we all are here gathered to do that. With these words, I'll not take a lot of time, but I'll be with you throughout this entire three hours, 2.5 hours training, so that any discussion, any questions, any confusion, if coming up, we can discuss and proceed ahead. Thank you very much. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Raka, for setting the context of the entire program. And with this now, let us move on to our technical sessions. We have two technical sessions planned for you. Before I begin the first session, may I please request all the participants, all the attendees to post their questions in the chat box. You can regularly post your questions in the chat box. And if time allows us, we will take those questions up at the end of the two sessions, right? So with this, now may I please welcome Dr. Balu, consultant CCDRR Center, NIDM. Dr. Balu is a PhD in sociology and has been involved in the work of CCDR since its beginning. So over to you, Dr. Balu, and welcome to the program. So you can introduce your topic.
Sure. Is my screen is visible?
Sir, your video is visible, cannot see the presentation.
Okay, PPT.
Share a screen.
We are long.
So regarding questions in the session, I think what Dolphy already said, you may keep on posting the questions in the chat box. If the questions are not answered here, all the questions will take back to the respective person who is giving the talk, and then we'll get back to each of you with the answers on those questions. So it's not that your questions won't be answered. So we'll get back to you. We'll send a mail on with the replies to the respective region or person who's asking the question. Thank you.
I think CPAP is not visible my slides.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
It's visible. Thank you so much, Dolphy. So today we have two sessions. In the first session, I'll be discussing about understanding the extreme heat and heat waves. And these are the three sections. The first section we will discuss about how the Indian Meteorological Department defines the heat waves, and followed by you will be also able to understand how people are vulnerable to this. And the third section, as suggested by Dr. Akash, will have a few information about the disaster management mechanism.
Hello, Dr. Balu. Your voice is not coming very clearly.
Maybe because of the network connection. Is it okay now? Still, it's not here.
I think there is some problem. You need to log out and log in again.
Log out and log in. I'm sorry if I'll do it. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Right, I have given as a post if I am logged. it okay?
Oh, no, it's still very muffled.
No, it's too much disturbance. The only solution is you have to log out and log in again. Otherwise, you can continue your presentation from Ranjan's network also.
Yeah, PPT, I have to-
Dr. Balu, make me.
You can make the host anyone else.
Um, Dr. Shine, while Dr. Balu is working out his connectivity issues, shall I discuss the analysis of questions in the questionnaire pertaining to just
Yes.
his part?
Yes, of course, because instead of just waiting for Dr. Balu, we should go ahead with the methodology. So you can share.
Yes, sir, about the questionnaire. This is about the questionnaire that was sent to the participants. So far we have received 24 responses. And let me just give you a brief analysis of the evaluation for the part one, that is basically pertaining to Dr. Balu's part, which involved what is heat wave, what are the indicators, determinants of heat wave. So, the participants were asked about the normal durations and which were the peak months of heat wave. So I can see that only about 10 to 11 people out of 24 were able to answer this correctly. So that could be because now our normal is somewhere dissipating. We don't know what normal is anymore, but these questions were pertaining to the normal durations that IMD, Indian Meteorological Department, has declared, right? So mostly March to June, and May is usually the peak, right? So let me see how many people were able to answer the link between drought and heat wave. So only two people were able to answer the link between drought and heat wave. Then the contributors to heat wave, the factors of heat wave, only one person was able to answer the this question. So I hope that with
But
Dr.
one,
Balu,
but one thing, how many answers you have received?
sir, I received 24 responses so far.
But I can see that there are 40 participants. More to fill up the form or something like that.
Right. I think so.
Yeah, actually, what happened is that the pre-test was first undertaken with the North team. So the entire North team gave the answers, but I think it's only yesterday that Shaheen forwarded it to other regions. So we got a few responses from the other regions as well. So that's why everybody has not been able to get back to us.
That will be a competition between North team and rest of the India, something like that, I think.
Right now, North is winning
No,
because
no. Actually, we
50%.
started with North, we were conceptualizing it, and then we thought that it's such a relevant topic that we should include everybody. So that the inclusion part was done only in the past 4-5 days. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So, right. So, yes, so what ma'am has said is correct. 50% of the responses are from North region, and then South, West, and East. So I hope they will catch up. And then a lot of questions with respect to the technicalities of heat wave were not answered. So I can see that only 4 to 5 questions pertaining to the technicality of heat wave. So, question number 1 to 10 were all about heat waves, urban heat islands, and everything. So, only 4 questions have been answered by people. So, I was hoping that at least not people from North region and people from urban areas will be answering urban heat islands, since that has been, in the common parlance a lot, but those questions have not been answered. So I hope there'll be all of these questions will be cleared once Dr. Balu and I take the session. And then there were, Dr. Balu, whenever you are able to join and whenever you are
Join.
able
Can I
to.
just check? Am I audible? Is it okay? My volume?
Yes, sir. Right.
Is it okay now, sir? Everyone?
It's better, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Over to you, Dr. Balu.
Yeah, thank you so much. I hope my slides are visible.
Yes.
Thank you. Once again, very good morning to all of you. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Let's start with the understanding on the heat wave. So as we all experiencing every day, recent days in the past 1 month or 1.5 months, the heat waves. So here we will be able to understand how it is being defined and who is defining that, who is declaring that, what actions to be taken. That's what we are going to discuss today now. So starting with understanding the background about this, like we know there are different energies like the chemical energy, mechanical energy,
Dr. Balu,
thermal.
may I please, your voice is breaking up. So
I don't know what is the reason, but I'm having Wi-Fi
you may
connection.
use earphones if you have access to them nearby.
Dr. Balu, please make Dolphy a host and she will be sharing the PPT. You turn off your video so you may get better, bandwidth and the voice will be clear.
Yeah, I'm sorry for it.
So she give this PPT to Dolphy and she will and make her host also. Thank you.
Balu, you may use my laptop.
Right. So meanwhile, let me check which is the most answered question. It's question 2, I think. In which month is the heat wave normally at its peak? 15 people have answered it correctly with May. The key here is normally. So we might think it's June or July, but the key is normal, right? What is normal or has been normal, right? So the least correctly answered question is what contributes to heat wave? So once you go through Dr. Balu's session, then go back to this question and try to answer it correctly. That if you're able to, do that. So what are the factors that may contribute to heat wave? Okay. And then one question that was answered perfectly was the maximum temperatures, the ceiling for maximum temperatures at different stations. So that was answered by most of the people correctly. Right. Dr. Balu, please interject whenever you are
Yeah,
available.
sure. I'm taking some time.
Right, no issue. Yes. I'm sorry, I was mistaken. People have answered about urban heat islands. 11 people have correctly answered. So, yes.
Dolphy, I
I'm
think
not.
Dr. Balu is sharing the presentation with you. You need to share it and then he will be speaking from his end.
I think, yes, ma'am, he hasn't shared yet.
Acha, okay. So once he shared,
But
you
Dr.
just
Balu, please, please let me know if you will be sharing it yourself from Ranjanji's system or will I be sharing it from here? Just let me know this as well. Ranjanji's like audio was quite clear, so you may use his system. So just give me a prompt because I am on the Google Forms. I might not.
Dolphin, my voice is clear? Okay.
Yes, yes, Ranjanji, your voice is clear,
Your
so
voice
maybe
is clear.
Dr. Balu can use your computer.
Yes.
Right, and also which age group is most particularly vulnerable. So all are vulnerable, but the key was most particularly, and around 90% of people have answered correctly. We'll see what the correct responses are throughout the PPTs. And then common health risks of heat wave, everybody has answered 100% correctly. Why are children vulnerable? So very few have answered it correctly. So during my presentation, we'll see why are they vulnerable.
So I think the presentation is on now. We can see it.
Right.
So we can proceed
Right,
with
right, right.
the session. Yeah.
So Dr. Balu, are you ready to take the session?
Yes, am I audible now? Is it okay?
Yes, yes, sir. Perfectly.
Yes, very
audible.
good.
Okay. I'm sorry, after a long time we are using the online platform. So we were started discussing about understanding about the heat wave. So as we all aware about the different types of energy, like a chemical energy or thermal energy, mechanical energy. Similarly, the heat is also defined as a thermal energy of a system, the net amount of the thermal energy of a system. And many times the heat wave is also a condition of air temperature. As we all know that there's air in the air, how the temperature is being increased, right? That becomes a heat wave. And the people who are moving in day-to-day life for their physical, social, or economical needs, when they were being exposed to that heat wave, it is also become fatal for the human body. And many times it is also defined in terms of heat index. And based on this heat index is calculated based on the temperature and the humidity. And many times also this extreme percentage of the temperatures are also being calculated. So two things here we need to understand. The heat index is about the temperature and the humidity, right? It is also showing that how it is increasing the temperature. So seeing some more facts about the heat waves, many information you might be aware of it. It is an abnormally high temperature, right? We all know that throughout the year, in certain period, we are experiencing the winter, and certain period we are experiencing rainy season. And similarly, during this like a March to June, we are experiencing the abnormally high temperature. Like the average temperature might be 30 or 32 during this March to June, but now we are experiencing the high temperature. It goes even up to 40 or 42 in certain region, right? Similarly, it is also more than the normal maximum temperature occurs during this particular period. So in our childhood days, there was only the heat wave, like the temperature was high during only in the month of May. But nowadays we are experiencing these heat waves typically from March to June. Even in some region, it starts from February mid to June mid, it continues, right? And also in some places, it is also extending till July. So these are some of the facts which you all might have experienced. And these are some of the literatures which I am sharing. And I will also give the background how it is being defined by the Indian Meteorological Department. And again, this heat wave is also an extended period of days with the higher than the normal temperature. So when the higher than the normal temperature is continued for certain days, the extended period of days, then only we call it as a heat wave. And again, this extreme heat or heat waves occurs when the temperature reaches extremely high level, right? And the combination of heat and the humidity causes the air to become oppressive. Humidity is basically the amount of water vapor in the air, right? And this is also called as the amount of water vapor in the air is also called a relative humidity. The heat wave combined with the drought is a very dangerous situation. So we all know that at the time of the heat, we need to be cool ourselves. We need to frequently drink water. And when there is a heat wave in the drought prone area, then it is most dangerous when the people who are vulnerable will be highly, the susceptibility of the impact of the heat wave might be high. So let us see some of the nature of the heat waves. So these are the information. You might see that it's repeated again and again, but there are some difference, like the temperature is higher than the average temperature of a particular day when the heat wave is being declared. And the height, for example, if 32 degrees Celsius is the average temperature of a particular day, when this today's temperature is reached more than this average temperature, when it goes higher than the average, then we call it as a heat waves. And similarly, the high temperature also stays for a longer period of time, like 3 days, 4 days, or 5 days, it may be continued. The same higher temperature will be continued. You can see that whenever the different alerts have been given by the Indian Meteorological Department, like orange alert or yellow alert, you can see that the temperature will be high for a week or for 4 days or 5 days. Means it is continued for a period of times, and the air becomes uncomfortably warm for us. We feel warmness. We are not able to even move outside. We are not even able to sit inside the house or our office without air conditioner, right? And this weather forecast also does not promise any changes. If you see that weather forecasting, they might also give that there won't be any changes, or they may not able to promise the changes of the weather pattern in this particular period. And the temperature is high for at least 4 to 5 days during the heat waves. So how this climate change and the heat wave is related? Now, because of the climate change, the heat waves were being increased, and it makes that heat waves are hotter. You might, even I myself have experienced when I was in school going days, only during the month of May, I found little bit the temperature was high. Even in the month of May, we were playing outside, we were playing cricket because everyone used to be in the ground, right? But nowadays, because of this climate change, the heat waves are also become so hotter. We are not even we are not able to go outside, and the frequency of the heat waves are also being increased. If you see from after 2005, the frequency of the heat waves are also being increased. The Indian Meteorological Department started giving frequent alerts. Before that, there was no much alerts, or there was no much heat waves. So 3 points which we need to understand here relation with the climate change. So the climate change increasing the heat waves, right? And second, the waves are too hotter than the previous years, and the frequency of the heat waves are also being increased because of the climate change. And again, the higher daily peak temperatures, and it is also longer, more intense heat waves are being increasingly frequent globally due to the climate change. And India is also not an exception for that, since we are also facing the same. And every year, if you see that it is become intense, like when you are seeing the news, or even the people used to share experience that in the ground, I have never seen such high temperature. I've never experienced such high temperature in my life. Like people used to say that. It shows that every year it's become more intense, right? And the increasing the number of heat wave casualties are also. Recently, I've seen, we all know that Kerala is throughout the year, they used to maintain a pleasant weather, but even in Kerala also nowadays, they are experiencing the heat waves and the heat wave casualties. It shows that how intense the heat waves are. And let's see how this heat wave is being generated. So suppose today's normal temperature is 30 degrees Celsius in the previous years, right? But in this current year, the temperature is rising. I said 32, so it's going up to 35. So that is temperature is being raised, and this rising temperature stays for 4 days. So the normal temperature was 32 in the previous years, and this year today the temperature is increased to 35 or 36, right? And the same 35 or 36 stays for 4 days, 4 consecutive days, right? Then it is being called as a heat waves. I hope you understood the flow of the heat waves, right? And here we have a different definition for the different ecosystem. Like in the plain land, when the temperature crosses more than 40 degrees Celsius, then we call it as a heat wave. And similarly, in the coastal area, the average temperature is 37 degrees Celsius. When it crosses that, then we call it as a heat wave. And similarly, in the hilly region, it is the average temperature was calculated for the national level, it is 30 degrees Celsius. And when it crosses 30 degrees Celsius, then we call it as a heat wave here. Right? So we know the nature and the of different ecosystems. Accordingly, the average temperature based on the previous year experience, the average temperature has been calculated, and when it crosses, then we call it as a heat waves. So this is the basic thing which we need to understand how this heat wave is being calculated. There are two category of heat wave. One is heat wave, and the second one is severe heat wave. In the first part, heat wave, from the average normal temperature, when it crosses 4.5 degrees Celsius to 6.4 degrees Celsius from the departure from the normal, then we call it as a heat wave, right? And similarly, the severe heat wave, when it crosses more than 6.4 degrees Celsius, then we call it as a severe heat wave. Is it clear that, or if it is not clear, at the end also once again we can discuss. The normal temperature is 32 degrees Celsius. When it crosses 4.5 degrees Celsius from the normal temperature and up to 6.4 degrees Celsius, we call it as a heat wave, right? And when it increases more than 6.4 degrees Celsius from the average normal temperature, then we call it as a severe heat wave. And the actual maximum temperature we can call it as 45 degrees Celsius, or for the heat wave, for severe heat wave, we can call it as 47 degrees Celsius. Similarly, we can also discuss about the warm night. From the average temperature, when it crosses 4.5 degrees Celsius to 6.4 degrees Celsius, then we call it as a warm night. And when it is also goes beyond 6.4 degrees Celsius, we call it as a very warm night. And generally, these heat waves occurs in the plains of northwest India and the central India, east and north peninsular India during March to June. As I said, some people still they are experiencing till July also, and it's also started from February. It covers the states includes like a Punjab, Haryana, Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand, West Bengal, Orissa, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Gujarat, and some parts of Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, and Telangana. And not sometimes now Tamil Nadu and Kerala is also regularly experiencing every year the heat waves. Here, the Indian Meteorological Department has a big network of surface observatories. They have a regular weather forecasting stations in different parts of our country, like Hyderabad, Bangalore, in some of the major cities. In some places, even they are having a district level also, right? And they used to calculate the temperature, relative humidity, pressure, wind speed, direction, even air quality. This being forecasted by the Indian Meteorological Department. The maximum temperature is prepared for the period of 1981, from the year 1981 to till 2010, to find out the normal maximum temperature of the day for the particular station. I will take an example of one particular district like Guntur district in Andhra Pradesh or Tirunelveli district of Tamil Nadu, and they have a data of the daily temperature data, maximum temperature data of 1981 to 2010 for the particular station or in the particular districts. And based on this data, they calculate the normal maximum temperature for the particular day in the particular place. Normal maximum temperature based on in the, from this 1981 to 2020. When the temperature crosses from this normal maximum temperature, the Indian Meteorological Department declared that this is a heat wave over the region as per its definition. And this IMDs also have a different forecast. One is seasonal forecasting, and they can predict the weather up to 3 months. Okay, the lead time is like a validity up to 3 months. They can forecast the temperatures, and similarly, the extended this can be. They are also calculating up to 4 weeks, and again it is up to 5 days. Based on these short to medium term only, the heat waves were being declared. Okay, suppose today they are forecasting the weather for next 5 days. Okay, so when it shows that more than the normal high temperature, then they declare it as a heat wave. And what are the favorable conditions makes for these heat waves? One is the transportation of this heat wave, hot air, the prevalence of hot and dry air over the region in the particular place, and it transports to the another region through the waves, and that should be a region of warm dry air and the appropriate flow pattern which is transporting hot air over to the one region to another region, which also makes a heat wave. And the second favorable condition is that the absence of moisture in the upper atmosphere. When the level of moisture is going down or its absence, then it also makes the heat waves. As the presence of moisture restricts the temperature rise. When there is a moisture in the air, which also reduces the temperature, rising level of the temperature. So when there is absence of moisture in the upper atmosphere, which also leads to the heat waves. And the sky should be practically cloudless. The reason is that when there is a cloud, it allows the maximum insulation over the region. But when there is a clouds, it is not allowing for the insulation. That is the region it generates the heats. Similarly, the anticyclonic flow over the area, it develops over, especially in the northwest India, and spread gradually eastwards and southwards, but not towards the westwards because of the hilly parts. Here, anticyclonic flow means already the heat is being generated, but it goes towards the anti-cyclonic area. The cyclone, we know that it goes from the east coast, right? So when it goes from the anti-cyclone, means it comes from the west side towards the east. So that also one of the reasons for the favorable condition which makes for the heat waves. So what does makes the discomfort? There are different criteria. One is in the meteorological part. If we see that, one is the temperature is being raised, and the second one is the humidity level, and the third one is the wind pattern, and also direct sunshine when we exposed to that. These are the four major criteria which makes meteorological criteria which makes as heat discomfort. And the social and cultural component, if you see that, the type of clothes which we are wearing, which also makes us to the discomfort for the heat. And the second one is the occupation, the people who are working, the construction workers, even the Narega workers, and the farm workers, people who are working in the field, right? And the type of accommodation. In the rural area, you might have seen the different, like a tiled houses, the concrete houses also makes heat discomfort, right? And also physiological, if you see people who are vulnerable, like their health condition, who are not fit, and the elderly people who are not able to acclimatization with the new weather, right? For example, the people coming from Ladakh, when they have visited our campus in the month of April and May, they were feel heat discomfort. So because of the acclimatization. So these are all the three different common, like a meteorological, social, or cultural and physiological criteria which makes a heat discomfort to the human beings. So this heat index we have already discussed, and it is a measure of how hot it really feels when the relative humidity is factored with the actual air temperature, right? And as we all again already discussed, that it is the temperature feels like the human body when relative humidity is combined with the air temperature, which makes more hot. So this is one of the major part. Many times you might have read in the newspaper what is the, you may not aware of it. The Indian Meteorological Department used to give a different types of alert based on the weather forecast, right? They are also used to give a warning through the code, so that even the illiterate people also can easily understand. So the first one is like a green alert, for this purpose, no action is required from anyone. It is a normal day, and usually you don't find the green alert actually. But you can see in their website when it is comes as a green alert, they may not publish to the common people, or it may not be published in the printed or any other social media because it is a normal day. And the warning is it's a maximum temperature are near to the normal temperature. All right. So green alert means the maximum temperatures are near to the normal temperature, and the impact would be like a comfortable temperature. This is there is no need of any precautions required for this, and there is no any suggested action also. So the second one is heat wave warning issued by Indian Meteorological Department is the yellow alert. Many times you might heard this yellow alert, and the next one is like an orange alert. So whenever the yellow alerts are coming, we need to be updated, right? And here again, when these yellow alerts are being given, we have to see that how heat wave conditions at isolated pockets persist on 2 days for continuously, right? And it is in a moderate temperature, and the heat is tolerable for the general public, but moderate health concern people who are having already some illness, right, or the elderly people and infant and the children, people with the chronic diseases, they have to be given more care. And what the suggested action for here is we need to avoid the heat exposure. That is the reason nowadays the government guidelines or the advisory says that from 11 to 4 p.m. you are not. It is advised to not go outside, right? And we also need to wear lightweight or light colored and loose cotton cloths. This is the suggested action by also the Indian Meteorological Department. And cover your head and use a cloth, hat or umbrella. And in the next session, you will be seeing a detailed do's and don'ts on the heat waves. So the third alert is about the orange alert. Here we need to be prepared. See, the first one, when the green alert is given, no action is required. When the yellow alert is given, we need to be updated. We need to watch frequently the forecast, and we have to be frequently updated for the future course of action. And here when the orange alert is given, we need to be prepared. And the severe heat alert for the day will be given when is given as a orange alert. So the warning is that the severe heat wave condition persists for the 2 days. Though it is not severe, but the heat wave persists for 4 days or more. 2 points which we need to understand when the orange alert is given. One thing is that the heat wave conditions may persist for 2 days, or it may not be severe, but the heat wave persists for 4 days. When the number of days of the heat wave is also being increased, then also the orange alert may be given, right? When there is a severe heat wave for 2 days, or when there is a heat wave for 4 days, then in both the situation, the orange alert is being given by the Indian Meteorological Department. And the high temperature, the impact like the high temperature increase to likelihood of the heat illness and the symptoms in the people who are either exposed to it for a long period, doing heavy work, like I said, people who are working in the outside, and people who are exposed to the heat wave, right, like infants, elderly people with the chronic diseases, they might experience a certain health illness. This you will be, I think, when you discuss about the heat wave impact, you might be discussed in detail the different heat stroke and other aspects will be discussed. And the suggested action here for this heat wave is we need to avoid heat exposure, means do not go outside, and we have to keep cool ourselves. We have to avoid our dehydration. We need to drink sufficient water, even if we're not thirsty also, frequently sip a cup of water, and use ORS for the homemade drinks like a lassi or any other buttermilk or lemon water to keep yourself hydrated. So the fourth alert would be like a red alert. Here we need to take action, right? It is an extreme heat alert for the particular day. So here the severe heat wave persists for more than 2 days. When the severe heat wave persists for more than 2 days, means severe heat wave means when it is crosses the, I'll go back so that you can understand. Yes. When from the average temperature, when it goes beyond the 6.4 degrees Celsius, then it is being declared as a severe heat wave, right? So the severe heat wave persist means from more than the average temperature, it goes more than 6.4 degrees Celsius for 2 days, right? So that the severe heat wave alert is being given. The total number of heat or severe heat wave days also when it being exceeded beyond 6 days, then also it is called as a severe heat waves, right? And the impact like very high likelihood of developing heat illness or heat stroke for all ages. So when this severe heat, extreme heat alert is given for the particular day, then everyone there is no focus to be for the vulnerable people. So here everyone should be taken an action, right? Because it may develop a illness to the heat stroke in all the ages. So here extreme care needed for the vulnerable people, exactly. There are some common heat wave information here. A common man also may get the information from All India Weather Forecast Bulletin. The link is also given in the slides. The special heat wave guidance bulletins also published by the Indian Meteorological Department from 1st April to 30th June every day. Even if you click this link, you can go and see today's weather forecast. Every day, weather forecast is also being published by the Indian Meteorological Department. And the heat wave information is also shared with the concerned state government authority, media, stakeholders, even the railway, health department, power sectors for their preparedness. And for the awareness of general public, this is also being circulated to the print and electronical media. So I want to, if possible, I will also show how, just a minute. Maybe at the end of my presentation, I can show the Indian Meteorological Department website where you can access 3 months forecast, every station's forecast, and also daily forecast will be available. Coming to the heat wave as a disaster, the heat waves were not being notified as a national level disaster by the Disaster Management Authority or in the disaster relief policies. But certain states like Chhattisgarh, Orissa, Kerala, Rajasthan, Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, Karnataka, they have declared that heat wave as a local disaster. And from the state disaster relief fund also, they can spend up to 10% for this heat wave. And the preparation of heat wave action plan by the states from 2015 onwards, all the state governments are being they have developed their heat wave action plan every year, and the National Disaster Management Authority is also conducting a workshop for preparing the heat wave action plan for the states. And based on this heat wave action plan, this district administration is also taking certain measures for the risk reduction. When we consider this disaster as a risk of risk of a heat, I have given some of the facts. I'm not covering the entire impact part, and certain aspects which you can see from 2000 to 2018, the heat-related mortality in the people older than 65 years has been increased by 53%. In 2018, it reached 296,000 deaths at global level. This data is up to global level from 2000 to 2018, and in majority of which occurred in Japan, Eastern China, and Northern India, and also Central Europe. Among those major deaths happen in these countries, and India is also one of the highly affected country. And more than 300 billion work hours were lost in 2019 due to the increasing heat as compared to 199 billion work hours lost in the year of 2000 at global level. And similarly, with 118 billion hours, India alone accounts more than 39%, right? And USA accounts for less than 1% of 2 billion hours heat-related work hours lost globally during the year 2019. It shows that the major impact is one is the fatality, and the second one is loss of working hours. I personally share my experience in during the summer. If there is no AC, we can't work. We may not able to concentrate on our work, especially during 2 to 4. 2 to 4 p.m., we may not able to do any work by using our mind. I used to use only for making phone calls or doing any administrative work related to office during this 2 to 4. So sometimes if there is no any other administrative work, if I have to do some research or training, I may not be able to do it. So this is how the work hours also being reduced because of the heat waves. Even here in our campus also we have given that for the garden workers, their working hours also being reduced for 2 hours during the summer period. And many offices were functioning from morning 8 to or at 12. So basically it shows that similarly the people who are working in the construction or in the outer area or in the Narega workers, for them also there is some relaxation were given. So basically it also affects the economy of our country. So coming to the urban heat island, see this map is based on the US setups. Like the town down is in a city area, you can assume that it is an like a city, and the urban residences are covered there, and in some places there is a warehouse. You can assume our cities like a Bangalore or a Mumbai or a Delhi, how the cities were being developed. So in the cities, basically there will be a lot of concrete jungles, and you may not find much trees. You may not find any water bodies inside the cities, right? The temperature level also might be very higher in the daytime. So this urban heat island is nothing but in the night, daytime it absorbs the heats in the city area, and nighttime everywhere usually it releases the heats. That is the reason we found the heat discomfort inside home. Especially this is higher in the urban area because of the concrete houses and the lack of trees and the lack of water bodies, right? So the urban heat island, it is an effect of urban areas that have higher concentration of infrastructure like roads, buildings, and glass surfaces, right? And the water bodies are compared to very suburban area, and the rural area become the island of higher heat. So since there is a higher infrastructure in the cities, and there is a lack of water bodies or the greenery areas, which becomes an island of heat, higher heat. That is what we called as a urban heat island. Okay, and the exposure to heat also can be higher in the urban settlement as compared to the rural settlement due to the urban heat island effect. And similarly, the building and housing type also can be modify exposure to the extreme heat. And the houses, particularly in the slum with the poor ventilations and also uninsulated walls, roofs, and limited to no cooling options, they also face a higher impact because of the urban heat island. And there are some social dimensions, health, education, cultural, and demographic, also affecting the health of the people because of the heat waves. And if you take the economic dimensions, the working conditions and the livelihood are among the most important drivers that can also modify exposure to the heat. Here, basically for their economic needs, the like paddy harvesters, people who are working, or the Narega workers, they are working in the outer area for their livelihoods, right? Which also has an impact on their life. And similarly, the agriculture field, the largest source of livelihood in India, where 70% people living in the rural households, they were depending on it, right? And similarly, the urban workers like street vendors and the traffic policemen, they were also exposed to the higher level of heat due to the livelihood conditions. And the people working in the outdoor nature of workers, you might have seen, right? And the people working in also outer urban environment also exposed to the higher level of heat due to the urban heat island effects. And because of the higher heat reflective surfaces, the air pollution, poor wind circulation, and lesser green areas, and the fewer water bodies, that hot air gets trapped into the urban area, making people working in those environments also exposed to the higher heat. Like vulnerabilities of the extreme heat, the physical vulnerability because of the infrastructure and the geography where they located into the urban area, and the land use, sometimes where they also used to, after the harvest, they used to fire the land for the under cultivation, which also leads to the vulnerability. And again, the health part of the people with the chronic diseases and the elderly people and the children or pregnant women and the cultural aspects like of the way dresses which we wear. This also leads to the social vulnerabilities at the time of heat waves. And the environmental economic vulnerability, again, the air quality is another reason. And the natural resources where there is a less number of water bodies, where there is no trees or less trees, and also their the livelihood pattern, and when there is a high industries and the type of business which they are doing, which also leads to the vulnerabilities of a person, like example of street vendors. So who is at risk here? More males than females are affected. Here, the children, older adults, and the people with disabilities and outside workers, they are highly vulnerable to the heat waves, right? And the less able, pregnant, are already informed, and the poor, displaced, and the homeless people, and outdoor or manual workers, athletes, and the children, and the elderly people, they are basically highly vulnerable, or they are in the risk. Of course, everybody is feeling the heat discomfort, but these are the people who are vulnerable to the heat waves. So coming back to the how elderly individuals are vulnerable to the heat waves, one is it reduce the ability to regulate body temperature. The elderly people's they have a less ability for regulating their body temperatures. That is the reason they are also highly vulnerable. And as people, if their bodies become less efficient to regulating the temperature, that is one of the major reasons. And the elderly individuals are also more susceptible to the heat stress, and the elderly individuals also likely to experience heat exhaustion or heat stroke. So that is the reason we say that the elderly individuals are also vulnerable to the heat waves. And the chronic medical condition people having, they are also highly vulnerable. The elderly individuals are more likely to have a chronic medical conditions like a heart disease or diabetes and the respiratory problems. They are also in the they are also vulnerable. And these conditions can also make it harder for the body to regulate temperature and increase the risk of heat-related illness. Some medication also may cause dehydrations. Like some example is given. I'm sorry, I'm not much clear about that. And some medication may also reduce the kidney or heat functioning, which also we need to be very clear about it. Some medication also may interfere with the sweating. So such medications we need to avoid at the time of summer season or during the heat waves. But people who are with already chronic illness, they are supposed to have their own this medication which cannot be avoided. So that is the reason the chronic medical condition also may lead to the high impact on the elderly people. How children are vulnerable? Here the children are more susceptible to dehydration than adults because they used to play a lot, they used to go have a much exposure to the heat wave, right? And the children can also lose water rapidly through sweating, and it also leads to the dehydration and other heat-related illness. And the children have a sensitive skin than adults, and they are higher risk of sunburn during the heat wave. And the sunburn also can increase the risk of skin cancer later in life of children. And many times the extreme heat affects also children's education and future livelihoods. And they also play outside in the heat, in the extreme heat that put their health in danger. And many times they also engage in the physical activity even when it is not safe to do, because this is the situation how the children are vulnerable. Here, as we discussed, like children, elderly people, outdoor workers, and the pregnant women who are vulnerable. Let's see how the pregnant women are vulnerable here. Their blood volume increases by up to 50%, which make it harder for the body to cool down when a women get. And the hormones produced during the pregnancy, which also can affect the body's ability to regulate the temperature. So because of these two reasons, the pregnant women are also highly vulnerable to the heat waves. So with this, let me stop. And the third part is about the institutional mechanism in our country. So as you all aware that the 2000 5, the Disaster Management Act was passed, and the three-tier disaster management mechanism has been set up in our country. At national level, there is a National Disaster Management Authority, where the Prime Minister is a chairperson for the National Disaster Management Authority. And similarly, we have a state level, state disaster management authorities. The Chief Minister of the state would be the chairperson for the state disaster management authorities. At district level, we have a DDMA, which is called District Disaster Management Authority, and the district magistrate is called as a chairperson for the District Disaster Management Authority. So these are the three-tier mechanism which we are having for the managing the disasters at the national level, state level, and the district level. So apart from that, we also have a disaster response force. National level, we have a National Disaster Response Force. We have a different battalion located in the different states, and they are pre-deployed to the before any disasters. They also have a role of train the people, and they also have so apart from this National Disaster Response Force, we also have a state level disaster response force in certain states, where a dedicated team is available in certain states. The existing police force has been used as a district level disaster response force, and at state level disaster response force. At the district level disaster response force, where these all fire service, NSS, NCC volunteers, scouts people, or the youth volunteers, NGOs, they all have been involved as a district disaster response force team. So we have covered three aspects for understanding the heat waves, and the second part is about who are all vulnerable and how they are vulnerable to the heat waves, and the third part we have discussed about the how the India, our country is having the different disaster management mechanism. So with this, let me stop, and if you have any questions, we can discuss related to this particular session.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Balu. Can we take the questions at the end if we have time? Because I think we're pressed for time here.
Yeah, that is also fine. If you want, you can continue with the session, and both also we can take it together at the last if need.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Balu, for this extremely, insightful presentation. We were able to understand how heat waves are generated, how, what is the impact on different individuals and how vulnerable different groups of people are. So thank you so much. So I think this is it's time for our next session. May I please request you to unshare your presentation? I'm not able to share the new presentation from my side. Right. Right. Ranjanji, your mic is switched on. May I please request you to switch off the mic? Thank you. Right. Right. So let us move on to our next session. So for your next sessions, I will be talking about heat wave, heat wave impact specifically on children, and what are the do's and don'ts, mainly our preparedness. What is it that we should do, and what is it that we should do specifically for children, right? So may I please request the host to give me the role, the current host to give me the role of host now. Dr. Balu, are you the current host? May I please request you to pass the role of host to me, because I'm not able to.
I'll check it if I'm having. I'll do.
Right. Dr. Shine, you may also check if you can hear me. Right. So
I am the host now. I'll give you just a minute.
Right. So meanwhile, we were speaking about your participation in the responses in the questionnaire. So why I am not giving all the answers right now is because after these sessions, you might want to go back and see, the difference in your responses, and also it would take a lot of time to discuss each and
Now you are
every
the host.
right. Thank you, sir. Each and every question here. So I'm just giving you an analysis of, what are the questions that people are, getting correct mostly, and what are the questions which, you might, be getting incorrect. So that was my entire idea of giving you an analysis, broad analysis of your questions. Right. So we've already done that. So once you have these, you've attended these sessions, may I please request you to go back to these questions and now try to find out if you have different responses than earlier. We will be sending you the correct answer key. I will give it to Shaheen sir, and he will circulate it with everybody, so you can also check the answers. Right. So, yeah. So I hope it's visible and I'm audible. Uh, can someone let me know? Is the presentation visible?
Yes.
Right. So thank you. So, Dr. Balu has already spoken about different categories of people who are more vulnerable to heat wave than others. So, one of the categories was children. So, they are more vulnerable to heat wave. Why? Dr. Balu has also given you a brief about it. So, let's just quickly revise it. It is also because of their physiology, because of their size. They have higher metabolic rate. When you have higher metabolic rate, you generate more heat. Your body generates more heat. So number one, they are generating more heat. Now, the our body has thermoregulatory system. We are able to regulate the temperature of our body with respect to the temperature of environment. But that matures with age. So now you are already producing more heat in your body, and children, they have immature thermoregulatory system, so they are not able to dissipate that heat that is you know generated, right? And then they also sweat less. We know that sweating keeps our body cool, so now they're also sweating less. So all of these factors combined together make the bodies of children more vulnerable to the effects of heat wave. Now they are also dependent on their caregivers. uh, if I am feeling hot, I'm feeling thirsty, I can go and have water. I can think that, okay, I'm feeling a little dizzy, so maybe water will not do it. Maybe I'll have lemon water, or maybe I'll have ORS. But children are dependent for all of this on adults. They are dependent for their clothing on adults. They cannot choose their clothing sometimes. So dependency also makes them more vulnerable. And when you are dependent, you should be able to communicate what symptoms you're feeling, whatever you are feeling at that time to those who are your caregivers. But children, sometimes they have limited ability to recognize these symptoms. They don't even know what heat stress created by heat, feels like. They might not be able to recognize it, communicate it, and they will not be able to respond to it themselves. So that also adds to their vulnerability. Then behavioral factors. Children, they are mostly used to playing, outdoors. They go to school, they share lunch, they, huddle together in groups, and then, they are not very cognizant of whether, there's a fan, that's switched on or not. Sometimes they are, nonchalant about it. So these certain behavioral factors, then also, they might, change their, temperatures, their temperature of their environment suddenly. We know that, coming from a very, cold AC room, we are not supposed to venture out, in, the scorching heat. So this sudden difference in temperature, leads to heat stress. But children don't know that. They move out from AC rooms to outside. So all of these behavioral factors also add to their vulnerability. Then children, again, like we know, are not, same. There are children from marginalized groups who are more susceptible to, heat wave. They are vulnerable within this larger vulnerable group. Who are they? They are these poor children who might not have access to cooling systems, then children who are in the streets, children who are homeless, they don't have a roof, they don't have proper cover from the heat. Then children with disabilities, they might not be able to communicate or understand heat stress that their body is feeling. And sometimes they have to use certain materials or equipment that might add to irritability during heat wave. Then menstruating girls, they during menstruation, it is difficult to regulate body temperature. Your body also you know, goes through this temperature changes. So menstruating girls also find it quite difficult to deal with heat waves. Then, of course, how can we forget about girls who might have to venture out for, fetching water, who might have to do household chores, and then have to also, undertake caregiving roles at their home, cooking, taking care of siblings. They are also very vulnerable to heat waves. So we have to also understand the unique vulnerability, the disproportionate vulnerability of such children, right? So what are the common impacts of heat wave on children? Number one is health, dehydration. We know that children, they are the one of the most susceptible group to dehydration. We know that children are dehydration, mild dehydration becomes severe, and this may also lead to, death. The younger the child is, the more severe the threat of dehydration is. Then heat-related illnesses. So heat stresses, there are multiple kinds of heat stresses. One of them is heat-related illnesses. There are multiple types. Heat cramps. It involves your muscles, muscle cramping or spasms. Syncope. Syncope is fainting. When you pass out, it's called syncope. Then heat stroke is there. We will talk about heat-related illnesses in detail later on. Then respiratory problems can occur. Like Dr. Balu said, sunburn. The younger the child, the more dangerous sunburns can be. Sunburns can turn into rashes. Rashes can turn into edema. And from milder symptoms, if left untreated, if aid is not given, can become severe. Then if you are subject, your body is subjected to such heat stresses over a long period of time, you are at risk of developing chronic health conditions later in life. For example, hypertension, cardiovascular diseases, certain respiratory disorders. So not only when they're children, but the stress encountered during childhood can lead to multiple issues later in life. Then there is heat wave is a disaster. Like Dr. Balu was saying, Dr. Aka was also saying, heat wave, there is a list of notified disasters, which are also sometimes in common parlance called national disasters by NDMA. There are 12 disasters in it. So heat wave is not part of it, right? So, and sometimes, you might be reading that heat wave is not a disaster. It's not a notified disaster, but heat wave, like in the previous this thing presentation, we have seen that it is a local disaster, and multiple states like Maharashtra, West Bengal, Punjab, Bihar, Delhi, they declare heat wave as a disaster in their own capacity. So that list and all, that is for the that is at policy level, that is at ministry level, and that is more or less to do with the geography that is involved, and a lot of technicalities, and it will mostly impact the use of funds from center and states. So for this purpose, you will always remember that heat wave is a disaster. It has been declared as a local disaster, and multiple state governments also notify annually. So it is a disaster. So whenever there is disaster, it disrupts routine. How does heat wave disrupt routine? uh, you know, the duration of school hours is decreased. You might earlier you used to go to school at 8. Now you go at 6:30 or 7. So routine changes, and we know that any changes in routine leads to uh, patterns and leads to various issues with children. It might disturb sleep patterns. It might disturb their appetite. So there is disruption in routine, and then education. So if you fall sick, you might, end up losing on school days. You might be absent there. And then also when there are, extreme heat wave alerts, we know that schools are closed. Delhi ends up closing schools for quite a while. Punjab closes schools during heat wave in May, and sometimes even in July, right? So West Bengal closes schools. So there is loss on education, there is disruption in education, and then that you are set in certain routines. You cannot go out and play. You have to stay inside and play. So that also is a disruption in your routine. Then let's talk about heat wave related illnesses. There are multiple kinds of heat wave related illnesses. You will hear about multiple. So sometimes symptoms are also, people will say fainting is also a heat related illnesses, which is fine, but mostly we can categorize heat wave illnesses into these terms. So from left to right, the severity of heat related illnesses increases. So first is dehydration. Then you have sunburn. Sunburn can turn into heat rash. Heat rash can also become heat edema. We will look at the symptoms in the next slide. Then there are heat cramps. The name itself signifies that there is muscle cramping, there is spasms in muscle. Then heat exhaustion and heat stroke. So dehydration is less severe, and then you go to heat stroke. It is the most severe kind of disaster, which is fatal, and more often than not, it leads to death. Right. So let's see what are the symptoms of these, heat-related illnesses. Dehydration is very, very common, because dehydration is when it's just dehydration, obviously you have dehydration, but in other heat wave related illnesses also, you will find that dehydration is a common symptom. When you are dehydrated, you will find yourself being thirsty more often. You have dry mouth, heartbeat becomes rapid, there is a headache, then skin becomes dry, and because you're dehydrated, your body tries to preserve water, so that also leads to your kidneys producing less urine. So you will have, dark color, thicker, and less urine. Right. So then sunburn. Sunburns are, the babies are more, especially a baby who is, for whom it is their first heat wave, right? So they are more susceptible. Their skin is softer. Their skin is less acclimatized to the sunlight. So these are red clusters, small blisters on, pimple-like, abrasions on the skin. And usually you will find these on the creases, neck creases, elbow creases. You will find them in the groin area, chest area, even in the back. At back, you will find sunburns, because sometimes children are, because of the friction that they face with their clothing or bedding. Then heat rashes are more serious than sunburn. They are more painful. Sunburns would be more irritable than painful. Heat rashes are painful and red, and heat rashes also radiate some sort of heat. So your skin will be warm, and they might also have you might also have blisters on your skin. Right. Then heat cramps, heavy sweating during intense exercise. During heat cramp, because your muscle is involved, so when you exercise, you will experience more, unusual form of sweating. Then one distinguishing factor is muscle pain, spasm, and cramps on your limbs mostly. Mostly this will happen on your limbs, on your extremities. Then heat exhaustion. So from heat cramps, heat exhaustion is a slightly more severe form of heat-related illness. Heavy sweating, again, cold and pale skin, clammy. Because of sweating, your skin becomes clammy, and since you are sweating, your body temp will also be lower than usual. You will have fast pulse, but a weak one. So fast hogi, but it will be very weak. Nausea, vomiting, heat exhaustion may you might also experience muscle cramps, then fatigue, dizziness, headache, and fainting. Now let's move on to heat stroke, which is the most serious form of heat-related illness. Your body temperature will be very, very high. In all the earlier, heat-related illnesses, you were sweating, so your body temperature was lower. But in heat stroke, you are not sweating. The second point is no sweating. You are not sweating. Your body temperature is very, very high, usually more than 103, and your skin is hot, red, and dry. Earlier, we saw the skin was pale and clammy. So the uh, pulse will be fast and strong, headache, dizziness, nausea, and vomiting. And this will also involve some sort of confusion. The child or anyone experiencing heat stroke, and mind you, this is the most extreme form of um, heat stress. They will be confused. They might even lose consciousness. So when looking at symptoms, you can differentiate these symptoms. uh, on the left hand side, there are symptoms that are milder, and then if left untreated, they become severe. So this chart is for you to distinguish between multiple symptoms while a child or you are facing heat stress. And then depending on the kind of symptom, you can categorize which kind of heat illness you are experiencing or the child is experiencing. And even for pregnant women also, they have given the source of this poster. This table is UNICEF. So you can differentiate between the milder and severe symptoms on the basis of who is experiencing. So let us first very quickly see, we have to learn to differentiate between heat stroke and other kinds of heat related illnesses. So let's differentiate between exhaustion and stroke because they are very, sometimes confused. And because other heat related illnesses will be very mild, only these two become quite extreme. So in heat exhaustion, feel faint, faint and dizzy, right? You might not pass out, but in this, you will have a throbbing headache. Then heat exhaustion, this is a differentiating factor: excessive sweating in heat exhaustion and no sweating in heat stroke. If somebody is not sweating at all, they don't have dehydration, they don't have heat exhaustion, they might be suffering through a heat stroke. Cool, pale, clammy skin, on the other hand, body temp increases, and red, hot, and dry skin. Nausea and vomiting in both the cases. In heat exhaustion, rapid but weak pulse. Over here in heat stroke, rapid but very strong pulse. Muscle cramps will be there, but in case of heat exhaustion, there'll be muscle cramps at times. But in case of heat stroke, the person will, become confused, or they'll be coming in and out of consciousness, so they will be disoriented most likely in heat stroke. So we have to learn to differentiate between heat stroke and other heat related illnesses, because heat stroke is deadly. So now we have seen what the impact of heat wave is on children and others. We have seen what heat related illnesses are and what are their symptoms, both mild as well as severe. So now, okay, so we have identified the problem. So now we will move on to what we can do, right? So I will be discussing heat wave preparedness, how we can prepare for heat wave and we can mitigate its impact in two parts. One will be guidelines given by the Government of India And then the next will be do's and don'ts. What can we do for ourselves and what can we do for children around us? Right. So let's talk about guidelines. We'll see what all organizations, government departments have given the do's and don'ts for and guidelines for heat waves. So there are multiple departments. First is NDMA, which is the apex authority for disaster management, comes under Ministry of Home Affairs. They generally, if you visit their website, I've given the links on the rightmost column. So they have given heat waves do's and don'ts. You can visit the link. Then they have given resources. Resources as such, there are guidebooks to mitigating heat wave impacts. For example, you will find guidebooks to creating cool roofs. Cool roofs are a mitigating measure for reducing the impact of heat wave on your house. We know that the most incidence of heat of sunlight is on the roofs, right? So how to create a roof which keeps the temperature of your house normal, or which decreases the temperature of your house. So they've given a guidebook of that. Then they've given multiple norms that you should follow during heat wave. So you can find these resources. These are very detailed resources. You can refer to these resources, right? Then IMD, Indian Meteorological Department, has an FAQ. They also have heat wave guidance, and you can in the link against heat wave guidance, you will also find real time heat wave in the country. So they like Dr. Balu spoke about different color coding for heat waves. So you will find that each district on the map of India is color coded in real time. So you can go and find out your district and see whether it's green alert, yellow alert, orange alert, or red alert, right? Then Ministry of Health and Family Affairs, they have do's and don'ts, and their do's and don'ts are mostly with respect to the health. So they will talk more about symptoms. They will talk more about the first aid measures. So they have a public health advisory, do's and don'ts. Um, you can visit the link. Then health related illnesses, guidance on emergency cooling. So these are for once in the emergency, what is it that you should do? How are you to cool your body's temp down, right? And then education. So education you will find that there are guidelines for schools, transportation, teachers, parents. So the Central Ministry of Education, they released a guideline through PIB in 2022, and it's a very comprehensive set of guidelines. I will also give that at the end of in the last two slides of the session. And then there are respective state education departments. Delhi government the education department will send out its own guidelines. Then district departments also, DDMAs also give their guidelines. So education department does that for school children. And then there are Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Labor, and all. So they also give out guidelines for heat wave, but they are not relevant to this topic. Then Dr. Balu has already discussed with the kind of alerts, the coding. So you can go through this again. And with respect to, like I said, you can go to the previous link over here in IMD. In the second link, you can go there and find out what color coding there is for your respective district. And anyway, NDMA, it sends out SMS alerts to the phones with respect to which, your region, the location that your cellular network picks up. NDMA will send out, orange alert to you, red alert to you, right? So you will also get these on your phone, and you can check these out at the website also in real time. There is Mosam app of IMD. You can also download that and you can keep checking it real time. If you live in areas that are, mostly under, yellow and above kind of alert, right? So these were the guidelines. So now let's look at what are the do's and don'ts. What can we do, at our, in our individual and community capacity. So heat wave do's and don'ts, these are very generic do's and don'ts. So in this, you have to understand that the number one priority is you have to shade yourself from direct sunlight, from exposure to, like Dr. Aka said, exposure to the disaster. So in this case, that is the sun, the outdoors, right? So you have to shield yourself, number one. Number two, you have to keep your body temperature at normal. How do you do that? These two, three things you have to understand. And then number three is you have to keep your, because when heat becomes so taxing, even if you're inside, your body will lose water, you will sweat, right? You will, go for frequent urination, your body will leave these electrolytes. So you have to keep yourself hydrated, not only hydrated, but you have to create an electrolyte balance in your body. So these three to four things you have to keep in mind, and there are multiple ways to do that. So first, do is stay hydrated, even when you are not thirsty. You, uh, you know, uh, trick is to keep taking small, sips of water every 15, 20 minutes or so, right? Then eat small meals rather than having a larger meals, have smaller meals every 1.5 or 2 hours, right? So avoid extreme temperature changes in the morning when you come from inside the office, or when you leave your house, try to regulate. If you are at a place where AC is blasting, first increase the temperature of AC, or first switch off the AC, then leave after 5 minutes, so that you are not blasted with sudden increase in temperature. Similarly, vice versa. Then wear loose fitting clothes, wear cotton clothing, light colors, don't darker the colors, the more heat they absorb, and you'll feel uh, hotter. So wear loose fitting clothes, wear comfortable fabric, cotton, mostly linen, then light colored clothing, and postpone your outdoor activities to maybe early morning or late evening. Try to miss that peak hour sunlight, right? And if possible, do something indoors. Take frequent breaks when working outdoors, and even when you're indoors and your body is, feeling fatigued, then take breaks. Hydrate yourself, right? What are the don'ts? This is the first one for children. We go to markets, we leave children inside the cars. So we, in order to try to protect them from sunlight outside, we put them in these artificial greenhouses. In glass ones, the sunlight can enter, the heat can enter, but it cannot go out. So it traps the heat, and you there have been multiple incidents where children have died inside, closed cars and vehicles during daytime. So don't have drinks with too much caffeine. For example, don't have too much coffee, even if it's cold coffee is advertised a lot, but caffeine will make you more dehydrated. Then don't have sugary and fizzy drinks, because in the end, long term, they will end up dehydrating you more, and also they are not good for your health. So while trying to save yourself from heat wave, let us not create another issue, that is the diabetes, hypertension, and CVDs. Then don't do strenuous activities. PT for children should be avoided. Excessive gymming should be avoided, especially during the hottest parts of the day. And try not to venture out, right? So this is again a prevention. What is prevention? Prevention is, you will take these measures for prevention are like the holy grail for preventing heat wave impact. So the first is, what is prevention? Prevention is to stop heat wave from affecting you. So this and all, this beat the heat is a slogan, is a phrase that is used world over by UN, by Government of India, by Government of US, by Australia, because each and every place on the each and every country in the world is facing heat waves at some time or the other. So beat the heat, you will find this phrase a lot in used world over. So this is for prevention. This is your go-to what you have to do during heat wave, that is stay cool, eat light, use sunscreen, use a broad spectrum sunscreen so that it's able to protect you from both UVA and UVB, because during summers the sun rays are falling directly over your region, so they will hurt you more. Cool down. When you are trying to cool down, you try to take a cool shower. Don't take cold baths, because we've seen people, dump a lot of ice in the buckets and then take that bath. No, that will, not help. That will rather, create more issues. Take cool showers, but not cold showers or baths. Then stay hydrated. That is the key. Stay safe. Inside cars. Don't create a heat trap. Learn and stay informed. Stay informed in the sense that stay informed about alerts. Be cognizant, or because we don't see SMSs much, but NDMA ka SMS, it flashes in white, so it's very hard to miss. So try to know what alerts, especially living in North India, especially in Delhi, because what is Delhi? Delhi is an urban heat. It's a classic case study of urban heat island. Then other places like Bhopal, Ujjain, Central India, they are urban heat islands. Even rural areas now, because of the cutting down of trees and such things, they are becoming heat islands. So learn what kind of alerts you are having in your particular area, dress light. So this you have to do till September, because we know that monsoons are also very, like I said, the questions were about what is the normal. Now normal is not normal anymore because of climate change. Even during monsoons, you will not abruptly after rain, the humidity increases. And when you know that suddenly, the atmosphere is clear and the Earth's reflective index increases, the albedo is the reflective index of Earth. The more, sunlight is reflected, the more taxing the heat becomes. And then there's humidity also. So heat waves suddenly after rains, you will not be expecting heat wave, but that heat wave will be more taxing than in dry weather because of the relative humidity. Like Dr. Balu had already explained, the relative humidity increases heat wave because uh, body is not able to deal with humidity, and the endurance of the body is not that much to humidity and temperature together. So this also answers one of the questions, that factors of heat wave. Temperature is there, then humidity is there. Then again, some more do's: stay covered, block direct sunlight. This is very, very important, because these days in houses, schools, offices, we have huge glass windows. Houses have French windows, so there is more glass. Like I said, glass lets the heat or sunlight to enter, but it traps it. So without ventilation, the heat gets trapped. So have ventilation, block direct sunlight, have thick drapes. If you don't have access to drapes, maybe in schools, you can have these indigenous blinds made from indigenous material like bamboo, jute, husk. So you can use, so try to block sunlight. And if nothing is available, you tape, newspapers on the window. So that will do it. Remain indoors during 12 to 4 p.m. because this is when sun is directly overhead. So we would want to avoid that. Then don'ts are, don't venture out, don't do strenuous activity, don't leave kids in car, avoid alcoholic drinks, tea, coffee, sugary drinks, and fizzy drinks. Avoid cooking during the peak afternoon, and don't walk barefoot. This is mostly for kids. They, might walk barefoot, and that transfers heat directly and also causes sunburns on the feet. Then this is about prepare. We spoke about prevention. We spoke about, now let's speak about emergency preparedness. So these 3 to 4 things you should prepare. You should have this ready in everybody's bags who are venturing out, who are going to schools, offices, playways, or and even if you are going out for a limited duration of time, you should have a water bottle. You should have something to cover your head, umbrella, hat, or cap. Then a hand towel to wipe sweat and help you. Hand fan could be, there are, if you can't afford electric hand fan, there are mechanical manual hand fans like bamboo ke, jute ke, even cloth hand fans are there. You can keep that, though they're not very expensive. Electrolyte, and other than water bottle, you should have sachet of electrolyte or glucose or ORS, because when you are outside, you don't know when your body is going to start to give up and you're going to start to feel fatigue. So immediately you can put electrolyte and glucose, and it will give you relief. So mind you, this is emergency preparedness kit. This will help you. So this should be a part of everybody's bag. All the this should be a mandatory thing for everybody. This is the kit to go for. And even for electrolyte balance, you can have traditional drinks, for example, panna. You can have coconut water. You can have lemon water. So you can use these things as well. Right. So, and if you feel dizzy, sometimes what is, people give coffee. So avoid coffee during summer. Avoid tea also. So right. So let's see what are the risk factors for children. If you look at the top one, two, three, so let's see what are the top risk factors and their impact. What risk factors will make children more, vulnerable? First is hot and humid weather. The hotter the temperature, more humid the air, the more taxing it is on the child. Then number two, poor nutrition status. Children with, lower levels of nutrition status are seen to have less endurance to heat. This is a well-known fact. Then little sleep or rest. You don't have, you've not had sleep, and like we say, that heat wave automatically disrupts the sleep pattern. So this is a huge risk factor, because when you're not well rested, your body's biological clock and thermoregulatory system does not work properly, and already they have underdeveloped, regulatory system. Less intake of fluid. Children, they sometimes, obviously, they will not, take fluids themselves. They are dependent on adults for this, so they might not take fluids as much. Excessive physical exercises, PT and all of that in school, because we think we're creating a routine. There is disruption of routine, but rather than PT outside, you can have certain very light exercises inside, or you can have some other recreational activities. Then sixth is small children in their first summer. This is very very tricky. First summer for the child, because there is no acclimatization at all. Their skin is untouched, and all sorts of heat related illnesses can be suffered by this child. Then there are, what are the effects? Small cramps, sweating, thirst, a little bit of fainting, body temperature may increase. These are mild symptoms. Then severe symptoms are, they can have seizures, they can go into delirium, they can, lose consciousness, nausea, vomiting. They can, become severe like this, right? Then these are the symptoms. You can see what are the child-specific measures. So they have given the symptoms. This is from WHO and Ministry of uh, Health and Family Welfare. So you can see that they have given all the symptoms. On the basis of these symptoms, whichever symptoms are occurring in the child, you can find out which heat-related illnesses uh, is happening, because I've given you the table. So whichever one, two, three, six, seven, you can put them together and you can find out what heat-related illness they are, having. And then these are the common first aid measures that bring the child indoors. Uh, Sometimes what happens is you lose consciousness. First rule of first aid is don't do anything, just observe, don't move the body. But in case of heat related illnesses, if the body is outside, you have to immediately bring the body inside in a cooler, because you're trying to lower the temperature, you're trying to create cooler environment for the person. So you bring them inside, you move them inside, then you loosen their clothing if they're wearing a tie, if they wearing very tight clothing, you can open the buttons, you can loosen the clothing. Then have them lie down. If they're not unconscious, have them lie down in front of a fan, or you can fan them manually. Then give them, spray a little bit of water mist. You can mist on the head, on the feet, or you can give damp clothes, cool and damp clothes, keep it over their head. Then if the child is alert and responsive, then give them some fluid. If the child is coming in and out of consciousness, don't give fluids, because this might lead to choking. And if they're vomiting, turn them over to the side. And if the child is unconscious, don't give them anything to, eat or drink. So these are very, very common first aid measures that you will follow in any kind. Even if you're not able to find out that which kind of heat related illness it is, these are the, common measures for heat related illnesses. That is why in the beginning of this document, they have not differentiated between what if it is heat stroke or anything. They've given common symptoms, and for them common first aid measures, because they will go in every kind of heat related illness. So now this is from the United States Center for Disease Control. So against every heat related illness, they have given symptoms, and they have given what to do. So there are specific do's and don'ts and first aid measures for every kind of heat related illness. Let's see for I will talk about heat stroke and heat exhaustion, because for the remaining other kinds, it will be the common measures that we have discussed. In heat stroke, when you identify the person is not sweating, the body temperature is very high, and the skin is red, dry. This is wrong. Damp skin is not there. So I will correct this. Sorry. The skin is not damp, skin is hot, red, dry. The pulse is very, very fast and very strong pulse, which you will not expect from somebody suffering from a stroke. So you immediately know that this is a heat stroke. Before doing anything, call the ambulance, 102 or 108, whichever is the functional ambulance number in your area. Call them immediately. Then you give them first aid till medical help reaches. Heat stroke, you cannot treat it at home entirely. You have to call for medical help, right? While the help is arriving, what do? You move the person to a cooler place. You try to lower their temperature. We'll see in an infographic later how to deal with heat stroke properly. So I will leave it for them. Then heat exhaustion, again, you're sweating profusely, clammy skin, very weak pulse, nausea, muscle cramp. Again, move to cooler areas. You try to lower their body temperature, try to create ventilation around them. And if nothing is happening, you give them a cool bath. Again, no, not cold bath. Give them a cool bath. And if they're conscious, they will more, if it is heat exhaustion, they will more or less be conscious. They might feel fatigue, but they might faint, but they will remain conscious. So if after 1 hour you have given this first aid and the person is not responding, the child is not responding, you have to call the ambulance. You have to get medical help, because heat exhaustion can become severe, right? Right. So next, sunburn, and this we have already discussed, right? Keep have a low sodium diet, because the high more salt, that uh, salt retains water, so it will create bloating. It will not let your body use the water that you're intaking. Rather, it will create bloating. So you might keep drinking water, but it will not hydrate you. It will create bloating if you're having a high sodium or high salt intake. So you have to understand, high sugar, high salt, high fats, all three have to be avoided during heat wave. So rest we have already discussed. This is from UNICEF, do's and don'ts specifically for infants. For infants, you can go through this later on. So I'll quickly, revise this with you. You have to continuously see if the child is thirsty, because they again are dependent and they don't know how to communicate or ask for these things. They won't even know what is happening to their bodies. If they're feeling hot, you have to keep checking the child for symptoms of. I mean, you don't have to obsess over it, but you have to regularly, make a routine of it to check the child if they're facing any sort of heat-related stress. Then they should be clothed very loosely. We have a, tendency of covering the baby up so tightly, but keep them, in loose cotton clothing, right? If possible, avoid diapers. You can have a waterproof sheet under their cotton bed sheet and try to avoid diapers. And then if the child is 6 months and less, for hydration, we will only use breast milk. We know that there is nothing else that is prescribed, recommended for child, only breast milk. So breast milk will do the job of hydrating, of replenishing the electrolytes, and that is the best way to go about dehydrate. Even if the child is going through dehydration, loose motion, breast milk is the best thing for them. And the mother, the lactating mother, should hydrate herself, and through her breast milk, the child will gain that kind of hydration and nutrition. No medication to children, especially below 6 months. Then don't leave them in car or less ventilated areas. Keep the air circulation plenty around child, right? Do not let them play outside. Yes, they might, want to. They might become irritable. They might, become agitated. But you have to, try to reason with them, teach them about heat wave, what it does to your body, and this might help them, you know, change their behavior, right? So again, give them plenty fluids, then learn to identify heat-related stress and illnesses in infants. There was a slide earlier, UNICEF slide, wherein it was differentiated between milder and severe symptoms in all ages of people, right? So you can use that. Remove extra padding around the baby, the soft mattresses in which the baby sinks into, extra, covering around the cots, prams. Use simple cotton sheets, and you can use a layer, thin layer of waterproof sheet under the cotton sheet. Ensure proper circulation around the baby. Then again, we have seen this. You can use this. I've given IEC material because it's easier to understand, and if you want to communicate it to, you know, people, your beneficiaries, and people, communities that you're working with. So you can use these. We've already covered this. So again, let's talk about, I think I just have one or two, three slides left. So let's talk about heat stroke again for a while. So let's look at the symptoms. We know the symptoms by now: rapid heartbeat, very strong heart beat pulse, no sweating, red. You can see the child is red, right? There is dizziness, headache. Most uh, often than not, the child will lose consciousness, or they will keep coming in and out of consciousness, vomiting. Then no, prevention is no alcohol. This doesn't fit well for a child, but this fits well for teenagers who might be consuming, some sort of alcoholic drinks. So do not wear thick clothes, wear protection. This prevention is again same with respect to every heat related. You preventing, it has not happened, but you're preventing it from happening. Now let's look at the first aid. Heat stroke has happened, right? These are the symptoms on the left. This has happened. You have identified heat stroke. What do you do now? First, call emergency medical help 102, 108, right? These are the emergency helplines. Move them to a cooler area. Cool the body, a person's body. How do you cool the, once you move them to a cooler area, how do you treat the person's body? First of all, you keep damp, cool. You dip the hand towels or any kind of clothes in cool water, and you keep them around the back of the neck, armpits, and groin area. This will also be valid for heat exhaustion. So you try to cool down these areas, right? Then you spray mist the person's head Don't throw water, splash water, mist it gently, mist the head gently, right? Because you will be losing heat from here, right? And then use a table fan or any cooling device. Don't blast the AC. Use mild cooling device for them. Remove excessive clothing if the person is conscious, and this is only if they are conscious. Give them fluids and have their feet elevated. It helps in circulation of blood. If they are vomiting, turn them over to their side. So this is how you will deal with heat stroke. Right. So you can use this checklist in any kind of heat related illness. It will guide you. So if this is happening, yes, you will do this. If this is not happening, so all of this is true for all kinds of heat related illnesses, what to do and how to deal with it. So you can use this checklist and you can circulate it around. Then this is my last portion. School-going children are particularly vulnerable to heat wave because they have to, travel, commute from home to school, and children don't take these precautions mostly. So specifically for school children, this is based on the source of this is the Ministry of Education's 2022 guidelines for schools. So you can refer that also. So this is just a summary of it. Modification in school timing, you reduce the school duration, and you also start the school earlier. In cold wave, you delay the timing, but in heat wave, you start the school earlier so that you can get free before noon. Children don't have to venture out, go back home during the peak heat. Then try not to have outdoor sports because during the time that kids are in school, the chances are the heat is going to be at its peak. So if you're have them early morning when they arrive, maybe at 7, have it, but keep them very light. School assemblies should not be, conducted. If at all, have them in their classes or in a covered area, but keep them very, very limited in time. Transportation, avoid overcrowding, have water and first aid kit readily available in the van and have an attendant in the van, and try to convince kids who are coming by foot or by, bicycle, uh, to switch to school buses temporarily, at least during the time of the heat wave. Or you can, if possible, you can ask the parents to drop them if they can afford to it. Otherwise, school buses should be available for them. They can so that they can switch over. Right. Other common precautions are carry preparedness. Each and every school child should have a preparedness kit in their bags. These are very common. They will anyways have water bottles. You can put some lemon or salt and little bit of sugar if the child likes it. If they don't like it, don't, because otherwise they will not even drink water. Caps, or maybe you can give umbrellas or some kind of covering. Some scarves can be given to them and they can use it. They should have that emergency preparedness kit in their bag readily available. Ensure continuous availability of water and electricity. Uh, if you can have water coolers or earthen pots to provide cool water to kids. Teachers should keep for younger kids, for primary school kids, teachers should remind them to sip from their water bottle regularly. You can, every time a period changes, new teacher comes in, make it a habit to remind kids to, take sips from their water bottles. And because the chances are with increased hydration, washrooms are going to be more crowded. So have proper hygienic sanitation staff should be oriented towards that, and it should be clean. You should have water availability, soap availability in the washrooms. Classrooms should be comfortable. They should not be overcrowded. Fans should be working. There should be enough number of fans. Block sunlight with curtains if possible. Use khas, jute, bamboo blinds. Ventilate the classroom fully and try not to huddle kids together. Relax uniform norms. No, avoid neckties. Uh, Try to wear canvas shoes rather than leather ones because they tend to heat up more and they're more comfortable canvas shoes. And prefer light colored cotton uniform. If your school has dark colored uniform, try to shift to a lighter color if possible. First aid amenities should be readily available. ORS sachets in the infirmary, medical room. Teachers should be trained in first aid. They should be trained to identify the signs and symptoms of heat-related illness. Right. So with this, I end my session, and I hope I was able to communicate do's and don'ts. I gave IC, they were somehow repetitive, but I gave IC materials so that we are able to choose as per our situation and requirement and use that kind of IC materials. Right. So I'm going to stop my presentation here. And yes. So Shaheen sir, should we go for question answers? Can you guide me if we have time? Because as far as I know, 1:30 is the last.
4-5 questions. I have also WhatsApp. Send you some important question. I have WhatsApp you also.
Right, so let
Or
me.
you can pick up from the chat also. Which two, 3 questions you can take, 2-3 questions Dr. Balu can take, according to
Right,
but okay, yeah.
right. There is one question from Mr. Shailendra Anand. Does decadal disturbance on sun surface, that is solar flares, have any kind of relation with heat wave and heat stroke? So, Dr. Balu, this is pertaining to your this thing, your
Sorry, can you
topic.
read because I have logged out and logged in, so I'm
Okay,
not
right.
getting any questions. Only one question is visible to me.
Right. So the question is, do solar flares have any kind of relation with heat wave and heat strokes?
Is there any relation between heat wave and heat stroke?
Solar flares that originate on the surface of Earth. Oh, sorry, on the surface of Sun. Do they have any relation with heat wave and heat stroke?
Not having any answer for this. If you want, you can. Otherwise, I may request Dr. Raka to answer this question.
Okay, so for this, as far as I know, that solar flares have no relation with heat wave and heat stroke because they interact with the upper atmosphere, with the magnetic field and the and upper atmosphere of Earth. They don't interact with lower atmosphere. So this is my understanding. So anyone can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, exactly. You are all right. This actually not responsible for the
Rakas sir, are you answering the question?
Yes, the question actually. Can you repeat?
Yes, so they are asking, are solar flares connected to heat wave or heat wave to any extent?
Yes, exactly. You were right that solar flares are exactly reflected back by the Earth magnetic field, and most of the time it's upper sphere, that is thermosphere, and that radiate the energy uh, uh, produced by the solar flares, and it's not related to the heat waves. But at the same time, sometimes sunspots are emitting a lot of energy, and that energy reaches the Earth's surface. And sometimes solar spots may be responsible for the rise in the temperature, but not exactly the heat wave, right? Uh, the scientists used to say that even 0.1% of the solar energy, if it reaches to the Earth, that can increase the Earth's temperature, Earth's global average temperature, about 0.5 to 1 degree Celsius. But it's about annual average global temperature, not related with the heat waves exactly.
Right. So, yes. So moving on to the next question by Dr. Shaheen Ansari. What are the measures being taken at the government level to mitigate the impact of heat wave? What is the peak time in a day during which we observe more heat. So,
So,
Shaheen sir, I think this was answered
Dolphy,
during.
just a minute. There should not
Right,
be
right.
counter question, and there should not be fresh questions. Those questions, just post it on the chat box. We will reply them because of shortage of time. We will take only 5 questions, which is already posted. Thank you.
Right. So, the question that you had posted about government initiatives for mitigation of impact of heat wave, this was answered in my presentation, and also the time, peak time during day, that's 12 to 4. This was answered. Then, what are the symptoms one needs to seek medical advice from? This has also been answered.
Yeah, this is one important question. What is the peak time in a day which we observe the
Yes,
most?
sir.
So exactly the 2 o'clock afternoon is the time when the sun is emitting the most of the heat and temperature. And keeping in view 2 o'clock and the conditions of the day, if we are under the severe heat wave, maybe 3 hours before and maybe 3 hours after, like 11 o'clock to 5 o'clock will be safer to stay inside. So actually we have to calculate the peak time at 2 o'clock afternoon, and from there, depending on the severe, extreme severe, or what is the condition and from how many days it's lasting, we have to calculate. And in that situation, actually the local warnings are very, very important, which exactly give you the pinpointed answers that this time to this time, try to stay indoors.
Yes, yes. The IMD says 12 to 4, but of course the duration is increasing. Right. So the next question is by Dr. Shaheen Ansari. It says a heat wave causes high chances of preterm babies. It affects the health condition of pregnant women, especially increasing their blood pressure and increasing chances of eclampsia. What initiatives we should take, especially during the 270, I think 270 days at the time of ANC to avoid such situations? So anyone would like to take this question? If
So
anybody is an expert in ANC care and heat wave.
yeah, exactly. A lot of do's and do nots already discussed in the presentation. And this is the most critical phase, you can say the most vulnerable phase. And if exposure into the direct sunlight can be fatal for a newborn baby during the first 70 days. So exactly all these things are the crux of the point, is that we have to make aware the caretakers of that time, because baby are completely dependent during the since they are too young, and they are totally dependent on their caretakers. So number one thing, that exposure from direct sunlight should not be there. The second thing, dehydration should not, we have to control. Uh, and for that, since babies are totally dependent, the total responsibilities is on caretakers.
Right. Thank you, sir. There is again a question. Can you please clarify heat wave related deaths in India decreasing or increasing over the years?
That is not something that heat waves are like continuous all over the years. So depending on the climatic conditions, if the summers are hotter, then there are chances of more heat wave related sickness, illness, or deaths. And if the temperature or monsoon is early, then the period is automatically. So it's very difficult to say that it's totally increasing or totally decreasing. But one more important thing is that earlier heat wave related deaths were not included into the disaster management. But since the state governments has identified it as a disaster, and after that the heat waves actually has actually been recorded like a heat wave death or heat wave related illness. And of course, this is one that whether the state government has identified it as a disaster, local disaster or not. And the second thing is, the important thing is how longer the heat wave conditions are there, depending on that particular year, arrival of monsoon. So it cannot be said that it's being increased or decreased.
And also, sir, there is a trend of underreporting of heat wave related deaths because sometimes they're not, these deaths are not identified as heat wave related. They might be put into a cardiac arrest or stroke, brain stroke, heart stroke. So there is a trend of underreporting of these because of issues with identification. Right. So the next question is, as presented, heat waves impact workers who work under the sun. Uh, we observe that most of young children accompany their parents to work to these workplaces. In this regard, the first question is, are there any guidelines for government to provide specific facilities at workplace to protect children and these workers? And second is, how governments give wage compensation to poor during cyclonic rains? Is there such policy to provide wage compensation to poor workers during heat waves? Right.
Well, that is a very important question and very technical question also, because there are two things. See, the labor department is different, the disaster management department is different, and state and disaster management always being a state subject. So there are two, three things here which we have to understand. So if the labor department of any particular district and particular state is taking place, it's their protocols, it's their guidelines. But what the NDMA or SDMA is telling, that how we have to protect the vulnerable population, what are the directives should be issued. And like funding, I don't think that there is any compensation for wakes, but there are compensations for the death or the heavy illness or something like that. If because of heat wave someone is become disabled or something like that, then under the SDRF, State Disaster Response Fund, they can seek compensation from the state government through their district level DDMA, district level authorities. But it's not related to wakes. It's like not that SDRF can compensate that if heat wave is going for 10 days or 15 days, then SDRF funds will be transferred into the compensative wakes or something like that. No, because these two departments are different, and I'm less aware about what are the labor and revenue department is doing for, and that is also depending on the state to state most of the times.
So, thank you, sir. And also, sir, in case of deaths, these are case to case basis by labor department, and there is no workmen's compensation for this. Loss of work days or work hours are not compensated under this way. So yes. So there's a remark or a suggestion rather. It says schools have been closed almost 15 to 30 days before. So we should advocate for running of support classes for at least a quarter to cover syllabus. So the recommendation is to run support classes when schools get closed due to heat wave alerts and to reduce loss of learning. So that is the
Of course,
recommendation.
for the completion of the syllabus and curricula, but also that is what we call preparedness. We all are sitting, the CRI representatives and NIDM representatives, just to understand that once the disaster strike, and after that, if we start itself telling people that you have to do this, you have to don't do this, then it will not work. The work will see if the heat wave is starting from April, somewhere from February, March, we have to make aware the masses that, okay, now the months are coming when the heat wave will be one of the major concern for the population. And for that, the preparedness should be start early. Otherwise, all the, yeah.
So there was this one question. I think you're the best person to answer this. It asked about there are different guidelines from different departments and ministries. Is there a convergence plan for these guidelines?
Yeah, of course. See, because like the heat wave we are talking about, similar to any other natural or human induced disaster, the central guidelines are there, and based on the central guidelines, state government guidelines are being prepared, and based on the state government guidelines, district level or the village level or the panchayat level guidelines are being prepared. But always we have to remember that there are no universal solutions, right? Solutions always lies at the local level resources, local level conditions, local level capacities, local level vulnerabilities, local level risk perception, and the person who are working on the ground is the best person who can understand the risk perception, the vulnerability user and the capacity and the resources, and accordingly under the umbrella of the central guidelines and state government guidelines, local level guidelines has to be prepared. Convergence is of course there because the entire disaster management system is under the complete three-tier system like Panchayati Raj, national level, state level, and district level, like Dr. Balu was talking in his presentation. But those, see, directives are directives, guidelines are guidelines. We have to make it simple. Central government cannot issue directives at the state level or the village level. That is because the local level situation is different. So practitioners on
So
the
what about lateral convergence?
yeah, it's there because the PPP model is there, and that is what we are talking about in order to handle any type of local disaster until unless public-private partnership is not there on the ground, it's very difficult that we will be reaching the last mile population, whether it's heat wave or the landslide or the urban flooding or whatever it is.
So the next question is NIDM collaborating with different agencies, departments on preventing severe issues from heat wave on children?
Yes, of course, like CRY and NIDM is sitting front to front. Uh, NIDM has different type of partners, like one is university network of partnership in that over 250 or 300 universities are on the same platform. A lot of research institute, including IITs, IIMs, everyone is there. And depending on the regional situation where the university is, where the students are from, they take up the issues related to their local disasters, and NIDM is providing scholarships and everything to them. They are starting to provide scholarships as well. A lot of research studies are also being funded by NIDM. So without collaborative efforts, always I used to say, disaster management is everyone's work. No profession, no individual capacity we can think which is without disaster and emergency management. And without collaboration, achieving resilience is almost impossible. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. And also, may I please add that last year also, every year, one or the other state government keeps sending recommendations to NDMA to notify heat wave as a disaster in its notification list, because that will open up a lot of central level funds for heat waves. So it
Actually,
hasn't happened as yet due to certain reasons,
not
technical
only
reasons.
actually, whenever actually the Disaster Management Act, there are a lot of suggestions about it, and whenever it's going to be upgraded for the next time, it's almost 15 years, over 15 years now. So two disasters, I am completely confident that heat wave and thunderstorm will be under the central disaster notification. And also psychosocial support and psychosocial care will be one of the basic needs when we are talking about basic needs today. So these three things we are quite confident. A lot of suggestions from the disaster management community and researcher has been already given to that. So very soon it will be included into the central DM Act.
Right, sir. So this is the last, next question will be our last question. So it asks, kindly elaborate on situation of collaboration on homeless or street children during heat waves.
The CRY is the better experts to do that. We are the disaster managers. So in disaster management, actually, whenever we are talking about, we talk all inclusive. Inclusiveness is our focus. We don't see that homeless children or school-going children. We don't see that a boy child or a girl child. We don't see that a able child or a disabled child. So inclusiveness is the first priority of disaster management system in the country also, NIDM as well as CCDRR center. And a lot of efforts when we are talking about different type of trainings through the different stakeholders, involving different stakeholders, whether that's child-centric disaster risk reduction or child protection and child rights. Our complete focus is on inclusive lot of children. So if the homeless children is there, if the street children are there, how their rights, how their protection can be ensured in the times of crisis. And if the school-going children also rights are violated in times of disasters and emergency, what are the best measures can provide to protect them.
And so may I also add that DDMAs and child protection offices at local level, they have a practice of creating emergency shelters during cold wave as well as during heat wave.
What efforts are
So
there?
they, yes, so emergency, even panchayats create emergency shelters uh, for those who are homeless during cold wave and heat waves,
Not
right?
only that,
So,
in the shelter, if the shelter is provided during cyclones, we don't differentiate between school-going children or the homeless children or street children. Okay, so everyone has to be evacuated from that place. In all disasters, this it's a similar. The first thing is inclusiveness. The target is inclusiveness.
thank you, sir. And with this, we come to the end of our question answer session. So, I would like to invite Sri Ranjan Kumarji, consultant CCDRR Center NIDM, to kindly deliver the vote of thanks and conclude today's program.
Thank you, Dolphy, for inviting me as a given vote of thanks for this orientation program on heat wave. Actually, one thing also suggests that in Vijayawada, one case study, everywhere shelter is available, like वो खर पतवार का बना हुआ है, उसमें वाटर का घड़ा रखा हुआ है, तो इस तरह का सिचुएशन ही देखने को मिल रहा है केस स्टडी हर जगह यहाँ पे डिफरेंट डिफरेंट जगहों पे मिलता है हीट, स्पेशली फॉर हीट वेव से बचने के लिए। तो ये मेरे तरफ से एक केस स्टडी टाइप का मैंने देखा है यहाँ विजयवाड़ा, तो इसलिए मेंशन कर दिया। तो thank you, Dorothy, for giving an opportunity to giving vote of thanks for this program. First of all, on the behalf of NIDM and CRY, I express my heartfelt thanks to Sri Rajendra Ratnam sir. Under his guidance, leadership, this program is being conducted in collaboration with CRY. I also give my thanks to Sri Suvendu sir, always present in each and every program of CCDRR and NIDM for NIDM. And also I give my heartfelt thanks to Ms. Jaya Singh, GM and PH North India CRY, Dr. Sahin Ansari sir. And also I would like to give thanks to our senior program officer, Dr. Kumar Raka, Dolphy Raman, CCDRR, all CCDRR team, and the participant from different region of CRY, especially Northeast, West, South, all participants to give thanks for participate in this orientation training program on heat waves. And a special thanks to give to both the experts, given more informative presentation on the heat wave, how to prepare from heat waves and mitigation measures regarding to heat waves, and it will be very beneficial for each and everyone, and especially for need to guide. I hope that each and every participant share this information to local level community and school level children for preparedness and mitigation from heat waves. Thank you so. Over to Dolphy.
Thank you very much, everyone. Special thanks to Suvendu sir and Pooja Marva ma'am for being associated with CCDRR Center of CRY. I hope that this will not stop here. Actually, the knowledge now has to be translated to the ground, and where actually our responsibilities will be tested. So only awareness. Heat waves are nothing. Just we have to make aware the masses, little bit protection, and they are safe.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Raka and IDM team, Dr. Balu, Ranjan, Dolphy. Thank you for giving us time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And my colleagues.
Thank
Thank you. Now,